Assalamu alaikum ya shabab. In this video, we're going to do a quick introduction to a concept called ism al-fa'il, right? So what is ism al-fa'il? Well, by now in your Arabic studies, you've probably seen lots of words that begin with mu, right? And one example is mudarris. And this is an example of an ism fa'il. It's basically like someone who does something. It's the doer of an action. So it's derived from a verb. Like this ism fa'il is derived from the verb to teach, yudarris. But mudarris is one who teaches, or a teacher, right? So it's the doer. Now lots of ism fa'il verbs begin with mu, but not all. That's just what you have to remember. And whoops, I already did that. And basically, each of the main 10 verb patterns has a particular ism fa'il pattern that corresponds to it. So there are 10 main ism fa'il patterns, right? So let's look at, just to give an example, we're not going to go through all the patterns here, but let's just look at pattern 2, wazn 2, right? And wazn 2, which you might know by now, is fa'ila yufa'il, right? Fa'ila yufa'il, wazn 2. So what's the corresponding ism fa'il pattern to wazn 2? Well, this pattern is mufa'il. So yufa'il, mufa'il. And luckily it actually happens to rhyme. So that's like a really easy way to remember this one, and that's why wazn 2 is a good starting point. So let's try to make a doer verb, or an ism fa'il, from a pattern 2 verb. Let's just actually use the one we did in the first slide, mudarris. What's the root of that? It's darasa, right? And so basically, if you want to make a doer verb, you have to put the pattern into here, and it gives us yudarris. This means to teach. But how do we go from getting the verb to teach to the one who teaches, or the ism fa'il, right? Basically, you have to put the same root into pattern 2's ism fa'il pattern, which remember is mufa'il. And so when we do that, we put the da here, and we put the ra where the ayn is, and we put the tha where the lam is, and this gives us mudarris. Let's just use one more example to... Oh yeah, sorry. Now wazn 1 is a little different, right? We'll go over another example of how to do a wazn 2 after this. But wazn 1 is a little different. And remember I said that each verb pattern has its own corresponding ism fa'il pattern. So wazn 1 is really easy because the ism fa'il pattern for wazn 1 is fa'il. Oh, sorry. Fa'il. So it's really, really easy. It's in the name of the concept itself. So fa'il. So what's a really, really common pattern 1 verb? I think it's yaktob, right? To write, or he writes. So the doer verb, or the ism fa'il, sorry, not doer verb, the doer word that comes from this would obviously be writer, one who writes, or author. So how do we get this? Well, same as before, we do the same thing, but we're just putting it into a different pattern, right? So we take the root of yaktob, and we put it into pattern 1's ism fa'il pattern, which is fa'il, and once we put the root into that pattern, it gives us katib, right? Yaktob, katib. He writes, and this is a writer, an author, however you want to put it. So let's just go over one more example of how to do this with pattern 1 ism fa'il. We have a really good, you may or may not know this word by now, but this is another common pattern 1 verb, and it is yatbukh. And yatbukh means to cook. So the ism fa'il verb that we want is a cook or a chef, right? And so basically we put the root into the pattern again, and the root is ta bacha. And when we put it into fa'il, yetbuch becomes tabich. And it's as simple as that. But the reason that this concept is complicated is because there is a pattern that you have to memorize for every single verb pattern. So we're not going to go over each one in this video, it would just be way too long. But this is just to get you warmed up to this concept. And in subsequent videos, we'll definitely go over more patterns. But in the meantime, I would encourage you to just look up on the verb pattern chart each verb pattern's corresponding ism fa'il pattern. All right, ma'asalama.